Oh my God, what a big day for the Denver Broncos, and we're just going to get right into it. It's orange and blue today. It's Cecil, Lammey, it is Andrew Mason, and it is the Denver Broncos now without Bradley Chubb getting traded earlier today. We're going to do an abbreviated show today. We have George Payton doing a Zoom call that's coming up at the top of the hour. Mace, you and I got to get out of here so we can join that virtually. But Bradley Chubb is no longer a Denver Bronco, traded to the Miami Dolphins. We'll get to Chase Edmonds in just a little bit. But let's talk about Chubb. Let's talk about this trade. This is the big news of the day.
Big news of the day. Big news in in a season of big news. Maybe you could argue the biggest news of all, at least in terms of a football perspective, over the course of the last few weeks, because you're waving goodbye to somebody who is a core player. But as I wrote on DenverFan.com, Cecil, the groundwork for this was actually laid all the way back in the spring. Now, back in the spring, they weren't expecting to trade Bradley Chubb at the deadline, but the Broncos and George Payton have been preparing for life without Bradley Chubb since in the course of 6 or so weeks, since they signed Randy Gregory, moved Baron Browning to edge, and then drafted Nick Bonito in the second round. They have been preparing for this. It's just that at 3-5, the Dolphins came in with an offer that made the Broncos accelerate the timetable a little bit just because of what they were able to get back in terms of capital.
Yeah. Are you surprised? And again, we'll save the Chase Edmonds talk for just a little bit, but are you surprised they got as much back as they did for Bradley Chubb?
No, I wasn't ultimately. I thought they'd probably be able to get a first from somebody. There's the old cliche, it just takes one, right? And there was interest from some others. But the other thing is with the Dolphins, you have a team that has already been very willing to take the largesse that they got from the Trey Lance trade and use that to trade for veteran players. And so, that this goes right alongside two other deals the Dolphins have made in the last several months or so. Most recently the Tyreek Hill deal back in the springtime. They didn't want to use it strictly for drafting players. They wanted to get veterans, and they took that. They took what they got in the last deal, and they said, okay, we're going to be flexible on this. And look, they're 5-3. Can't blame them for this. I mean, I don't think it's going to be enough for them to win the division, but this is it's a sign to everybody that the Dolphins are serious about making the most of this cost control window for Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, and I know it's not a Bills show, but the Bills trade for Nyheim Hines. That's an excellent move. Bad news for my James Cook fantasy stock, but either way, it's not about that. It's about Bradley Chubb getting traded away, and Nick Bonito, the future, Baron Browning, the future, Randy Gregory, the guy that you highly paid, and including players that they've added. It wasn't the only trade that they did today, Mace, as they go out and they get which high school did he go to? Who's our Denver, Aurora, Jake Martin.
Yeah, so one of the Aurora schools, right?
Yeah. Crestview, top of my head. Anyway, Jake Martin.
Crestview. Is it Grandview?
Grandview. Okay, something like that. Whatever.
All right, we're gonna look it up here. We got to find out.
Okay,
someone's probably watching this and screaming at us. Oh yeah, he went to this high school, Cherokee Trail.
Cherokee Trail. Just like I said, Cherokee Trail. Yeah. So there you go. Jake Martin's here, and he's more of a special teams and reserve guy, but reserve rotational rusher. Not good against the run. But that's not what you're going to use him for.
Yeah, he's filling the role of Aaron Patrick basically, and he's back. He's back end depth. He'll be, once you get Baron Browning and Randy Gregory back, he's going to be the fifth guy there. He's again that Aaron Browning role. And so see, someone was right on there, Cherokee Trail. Yeah, I knew someone would know. The thing is, they gave up basically a 5th round pick because you've got an exchange of 4th and 5th round picks as part of this trade. In terms of draft value, you're effectively giving up a 5th round pick to move to drop back 1 round. That's what it's worth here to the Broncos. It's the kind of fringe deal that you see George Payton make. I mean, this reminds me a little of the Stephen Weatherly trade last year. Now, Weatherly factored more heavily into the rotation than I think Jake Martin's going to, but it's the type of deal that he likes to make. What's interesting on this is the draft picks we're talking about in this deal are 24 and 25. And so it's really, low level currency when you're talking about how, in terms of the team's draft calculus, the value of the picks goes down the farther you are away from it. So you're trading like a 2025 pick. I mean, that's like a sixth round pick in this upcoming draft in terms of how teams view it when they're making their moves.
Right. And I've seen people say, like, this is a replacement for Bradley Chubb. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Who's saying that, by the way?
People on Twitter. The same fans that wanted Tim Tebow to play when Russell Wilson was struggling. But, like,
people,
yes,
people, please.
Not a replacement for Bradley Chubb. That's Randy Gregory, by the way, who should be back fairly soon. So
yeah, I'm going to knock on my desk here that he's going to be back by the Titans game, if not then the Raiders game, and the same is true for Baron Browning. It's going to be probably what we're going to keep our eyes on the most on the practice field the next week when the Broncos get back from this bye. Is the status of Browning and Gregory, right? Because I think I think they'd like to have one of them back. They'd love both, but they'd like to have one ready to go and go attack Ryan Tannehill there in Nashville in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and everyone's asking already, is DeHume is top positional targets? This team could use a lot, but offensive line had better be where it's at.
I think this may be an O-line heavy draft. And look, don't be surprised if the Broncos maybe are willing to trade down. I think stay in the first round, but let's say this pick ends up around pick 24. So I think right now I saw it's 20, right?
20, yeah.
Now it's San Francisco's pick. I think Miami is a better overall team than San Francisco. But as we know, draft order, when you're talking about the playoff teams, becomes predicated upon what round they go to, right? And so you might be looking at a situation where Miami has a better record, but San Francisco goes deeper. San Francisco has a better chance of winning its division and thus being at home in the first round, whereas Miami could be 11-6 and staring down a trip to Baltimore there in early January. They did beat Baltimore early in the season, so that's certainly something they're going to view as a winnable game, but probably a little bit tougher than San Francisco, maybe sitting there at home and taking their chances against the New York Giants at Levi Stadium. So there's a scenario where the Dolphins are better, but the San Francisco 49ers pick is actually later, and the 49ers pick is the one that's in consideration here. So, but let's say that pick is about pick 24. I wouldn't be shocked, Cecil, if they trade down, say 4 to 6 picks, stay in round one, pick up an extra third or fourth rounder for the cost of moving back a few slots.
Right, and that's just why something George Paton would do. Mace, I don't want to be the guy to be inflammatory, but who even says you have this pick if you trade for Sean Payton? So there you go.
Well, that does bring this into play, yes. Because the cost of getting Sean Payton was going to be a first-round pick.
Yes.
Well, there it is. Now, that being said, I would argue that maybe there are better investments of that than in terms of upgrading areas on the team that need upgrading. But we're in a different world right now with the Broncos. We are in a world where you have owners for whom money is no object. And so the idea of firing a coach after 1 year and then paying Sean Payton what I imagine would be a contract to make him the highest paid coach in the NFL.
Right.
If he came back, they have the wherewithal to do that if they see fit to do that.
Yep. So we shall stay tuned for that. Orange Blue today, again, abbreviated. We're going to do about 10 more minutes, and we're going to get ready for George Paton's press conference coming up at the top of the hour. Orange Blue today, every day, 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time. I like this one from Roport. How would you describe Chubb's time in Denver? Now, there's part of me, Mace, that wants to say what might have been, right? Emphasize the positive, what might have been, and oh man, and we had visions of Miller and Chubb and this rush and the pinchers and all that. But honestly, how would I describe it? I'd describe it as a mistake. It was a mistake. You should have kept Shaq Barrett and you should have drafted Josh Allen. Now we can get in shoulda, coulda, woulda all day long, And that's why I don't want to say it's a mistake. One, it sounds mean, Mace, and I like Bradley Chubb. I think you like Bradley Chubb as well. And I don't want to sound mean or personal or whatever, but it's like, yeah, kept Shaq Barrett, draft Josh Allen. But whatever, he's gone now. So how would I describe it? I guess if I'm being nice, I'd say what might have been.
Right. And the thing is, the argument against picking Chubb, it's not about Bradley Chubb. It's about the overall team building situation. Yes, there is no denying, and I know there are people who hate when this comes up. That's fine. But there is no denying that that choosing Chubb over Josh Allen was a mistake. And of all the miscues made with high draft picks, probably the biggest mistake of the post-Peyton Manning era. You can't deny that. And for those who say Josh Allen wouldn't have developed, no, it's a butterfly effect thing. First of all, Vic Fangio is not the coach in 2019 if Josh Allen's the quarterback. Zach Taylor's probably the coach of this team, who the Broncos interviewed before hiring Vic Fangio.
Yeah.
And if Zach Taylor's the coach of this team, if he comes to Denver rather than going to Cincinnati, where they don't know what their quarterback's going to be, they Joe Burrow wasn't on anyone's radar then, right? They weren't planning on Joe Burrow in 2020.
Right.
So, if Zach Taylor is the coach of the Broncos in 2019 to guide Josh Allen becomes an MVP candidate just like he did in Buffalo. Right.
Yes.
So that's why I do not buy the notion that if Josh Allen had come here, he would have failed. He would have succeeded because of what he had and how and the fact that the Broncos would have made different choices in terms of coaching to make sure he was set up. But I look back at Bradley Chubb's time. It very much is what might have been, and because the argument for drafting Chubb in 2018 was, remember, they just signed Case Keenum, and I think we all were skeptical about that, rightfully so. But in the Broncos headquarters, they saw Case Keenum as, all right, this is a guy who got Minnesota an NFC Championship game. If we get this, if we get a great defense and just enough offense, we can make it work. And they were visualizing Von Miller and Bradley Chubb being what Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware were. Right. We got a glimpse in 2018. They were 6-10, but Von and Bradley Chubb were very good together. But we got 16 games that year, and we got 4 more games at the start of 2019 before Chubb tore his ACL. After that, Von Miller and Bradley Chubb played 1 game together, and it wasn't even a full game. It was week 2 against the Jaguars in 2021 when Chubb had aggravated the bone spurs in his ankle and didn't even make it through the full game. So basically, with the Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, this dynamic duo that was supposed to define the Broncos defense, they had 21 games together. That was it. And so you do look back and say what might have been. And now in consecutive years, they've both been traded at the trade deadline, although clearly the Broncos got more for Bradley Chubb than they did Von Miller, but age has something to do with that.
Yeah, for sure. And we're all happy for Bradley Chubb. Has the new deal come out yet? Like, they're going to work on a new contract. Like, he's likely to be extended with the Dolphins. And here soon. So congratulations and all those sorts of things. Go make a run with Miami. But the Broncos are moving on. And Mace, I'm so happy that you tweeted about it, because you tweeted about the Shrine Game. Hey, yeah, here we go. Chase Edmonds coming out of Florida.
You and I were both watching practices over at Shorecrest Prep 4.5 years ago.
And I think Edmonds was on the team that practiced at your old high school.
I thought no.
Was he at Shorecrest?
I think he was at Shorecrest, and Philip Lindsay was practicing over at St. Pete High that year. That year. Right. That was a big year for running backs. Of course, the Broncos did sign Philip Lindsay after the draft, but they were high on Chase Edmonds. They liked him an awful lot, and if he'd fallen just a little bit farther, he might have been a Denver Bronco. And you've still a lot's changed, but you've still got some people in the Broncos scouting department that are still there working under George Payton now. And something like this, you do see a little bit of looking back at the initial reports. Now you got the pro scouts that have their reports based on right now. And what you see right now of Chase Edmonds is a guy who probably need a little bit of a change of scenery, even though he had that nice contract with the Dolphins. It wasn't working out as expected. I think this allows the Dolphins to kind of get some cap relief. They needed some cap relief to squeeze in Bradley Chubb's contract. So there was going to be a player either coming back or being cut. And the other thing about Edmonds is, I know people may see the $6 million cap figure for next year and think, whoa, okay, that's a little much. None of it's guaranteed. So he is a significant restructure candidate. The other thing is, he's under contract. You and I have talked about the reality of Javonte Williams' injury and the fact that it's not just a clean ACL tear. There's more going on in that knee. This is not going to be a straight up 8 to 9 month rehab, good to go by the start of the season. It's possible that Javonte Williams' recovery may linger into next year. It's even possible that he may never be the same back. So here you have
a likely he's never the same back.
Right. I mean, I'm trying to be a little bit more optimistic here, but you and I have seen how this has affected guys. Doesn't mean he can't be a good back, but he had a chance to be a special back, and maybe that's sailed away. But either way, you need somebody else in there. If Javonte could start next year on the PUP and not be in the picture until October, well, now you got your RB1 ready to go. It'll be Chase Edmonds if Javonte Williams isn't ready to go. And it might be on a restructure with a heavily incentive-based contract where if he ends up playing the season, he can maybe earn more than that initial $6 million figure if he hits certain escalators. But this made a lot of sense for the Broncos on a lot of levels. And, oh, by the way, look how much shotgun they used Sunday. And if they continue to go shotgun heavy, and we can debate the merits and and foibles of that tactic, but if they continue to go shotgun heavy, Chase Edmonds, that is the alignment that actually suits him best. He's very good at seeing holes as they develop out of the shotgun formation.
Yeah, and Chase Edmonds is dangerous. He's injury prone, okay, and the $6 million, don't worry about it. It's not going to be $6 million, okay? It's $6 million now on paper, but it's not going to be $6 million.
If you're paying him $6 million, he had a big year, and you're happy. Yeah, you're really happy.
Right, you're very happy. But he is great in space. In fact, I wrote about it in DenverFan.com. Like, I think the Texas route is back, which should be his favorite route, and I think he could play from the slot. I really do. I think there could be some packages. Imagine a package where you have like Chase Edmonds in the slot, Jerry Jeudy outside, and KJ Hamler outside. So you have all these different, and then Greg Dulcich. So you have all these speed options and playmakers in space. That's what makes it very exciting about Chase Edmonds, who, when he came out of Fordham, and this reference is different now, Mace, so ride with me here because I'm sure you'll agree. But our dear friend Lance Zierlein, who's one of the greatest, Lance Zierlein, Chad Ryder for NFL.com, two of the greatest when it comes to draft analysts out there. And Lance will give you the shirt off his back, one of my best friends. I mean, just a phenomenal guy. They had said Austin Eckler, but that was Austin Eckler like when Austin was a backup, not Austin Eckler like today, greatest in the league, like that.
To Melvin Gordon, coincidentally, who's here right now.
Very much so. Yeah. So I think that's an apt comparison for Chase Edmonds, and a playmaker that's versatile. You can move him around.
Yeah, that's a perfect comparison. I mean, actually, you look at him this year, he was more effective in the passing game, and he was effective on the Texas routes than he was actually running the ball. And so that's another thing. I know you and I both want, in an ideal world, we want to see the Broncos run the ball. But it may well be a lot of dump offs to the backs that serve as runs. And actually, you've got a running back room now. I'm interested to see what happens with Marlon Mack, because now you got four guys in the room here. But you got Melvin Gordon, who can catch pass in space. Latavius Murray, it's not his strength, but he can do okay with it.
He's capable.
He's capable. Marlon Mack is more than capable. Chase Edmonds is more than capable. You got some options here.
Yeah, you do. Super quick before we're out of here, Mace. Any surprise that they didn't trade, like an Albert Okwuegbunam? The KJ Hamler offers must not have come through. Like, any surprise non-trades for the Broncos?
I wasn't surprised that neither KJ nor Jerry Jeudy got traded, especially. That is one where I do think Sunday had an effect, but even just the general arc, Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler are becoming bigger parts of this offense. There were some rumblings that maybe Green Bay would get in, and this was sort of spitballing. Maybe the Packers would have looked to pick up Cortland Sutton, perhaps. That seemed kind of prohibitive given their overall cap situation right now. So that didn't the finances of it didn't make a whole lot of sense for them to do that. So I'm not surprised that they didn't trade any wide receivers. As for Albert Okwuegbunam, look, he's inactive. There are probably teams that looked at Albert O and said, you know what, we'll just wait for the Broncos to cut him.
Right.
He's not playing right now. Now it doesn't behoove the Broncos to let him go because they're one tight end injury away from him having to play again. But I think teams can see the writing on the wall, and I think they didn't value Albert O enough to make a deal at this point. I think if the Broncos do waive him, you'll see a bunch of teams try to claim him though.
Yep. That's Orange and Blue today. Again, abbreviated show today. Thanks everyone for watching. We got George Payton press conference coming up in just a little bit. He's Andrew Mason. I'm Cecil Lammey. Give me that Go Broncos. Everyone stay tuned. And as always, I command that you stay frosty.